She's giggling, hands still slick, heart still racing from the rush of the prank. Siti pushes through the bathroom door and turns on the faucet. She can't stop laughing. She's giggling, hands still slick, heart still racing from the rush of the prank. Siti pushes through the bathroom door and turns on the faucet. She can't stop laughing. It went perfectly. The look on that man's face priceless. She scrubs her hands, dries them off, and walks back out into the terminal. But the producers are gone. Chang gone, the camera crew gone, every single person she came with vanished. Just empty space where they used to be, and somewhere on the other side of that airport, the man she just touched is being rushed to a medical clinic. His vision is blurring. His body is shutting down. Because what Siti doesn't know, what nobody told her, is that it was never baby oil on her hands. It was half of a nerve agent banned in every country on earth. And the man she touched, he was already dead. To understand how a 25-year-old woman ended up at the center of an international assassination plot, you first have to understand who Siti was before any of this happened. She grew up in Indonesia, a country of over 270 million people, where economic opportunity isn't. You first have to understand who Siti was before any of this happened. She grew up in Indonesia, a country of over 270 million people, where economic opportunity isn't. Malaysia's economy is stronger, the jobs pay better, and if you're disciplined, you can actually build something or at least send enough home to keep your family afloat. But the work Siti ended up doing to survive in Kuala Lumpur, it wasn't something she advertised. She worked as an escort, and she did it not because it was her dream, but because the money was real and her family needed it. So when a man approached her and said he worked for a major YouTube channel, that they made prank videos, that it paid well, and that she could leave escort work behind, she listened. The offer was roughly $96 per prank. In Malaysian ringgit, that's serious money, enough to make a real difference for her parents back in Indonesia. Of course, she said yes, and honestly, if someone approached most of us with that same pitch, we probably would too. Hey, before we go any further, if you're new here, welcome to Daily Crime Case. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story, it only gets wilder from here, and you do not want to miss the ending. The man behind the offer introduced himself as a producer. He brought Siti to meet the head of the operation, a man we'll call Mr. Chang, and in those early weeks, everything looked completely legitimate. They'd take Siti to busy public places shopping, malls, crowded streets, transit hubs, and she'd pull these light-hearted, harmless pranks on total strangers. Walk up behind someone and hold their hand, tap a random person on the shoulder and run, smear baby oil on her palms and do the classic guess who, covering someone's eyes from behind so the oil gets on their face. People laughed. Siti laughed. It felt fun, even a little thrilling. Over the course of about a month, she did several of these, got paid, sent money home. Life was actually looking up. What she didn't know was that around the same time, Mr. Chang's team had recruited another young woman for the same operation. Her name was Doan, a Vietnamese woman, also living in Malaysia, also pulled into this world with the same promise of easy money and a legitimate gig. The two women didn't know each other. They didn't know they were being rehearsed, and they had absolutely no idea that every single prank they'd been practicing, every hand over the eyes, every oily-faced stranger was leading toward one specific moment, one specific target. It was February 13th, 2017. Mr. Chang told Siti they were doing a big one today. Airport location, higher profile, and this time she wouldn't be working alone. There would be another actress involved, hitting the same target right after. Her double prank, more laughs. Simple. He poured what looked like baby oil onto Siti's hands and rubbed it in. She'd done this before. No big deal. Then he pointed. Across the busy terminal Kuala Lumpur International Airport 2, one of the most trafficked airports in Southeast Asia, stood a heavyset man in his mid-40s, moving casually through the crowd. He had a round face, dark hair, and carried himself like someone used to traveling, used to blending in. Siti approached from behind. She raised her hands. She covered his eyes. Guess who? The oil smeared across his face. The man startled, clearly confused and uncomfortable. But before he could fully react, Doan was already there, her palms pressing against his face in the same motion. Then both women giggled, turned around, and jogged toward the nearest bathroom to wash their hands. Took less than 30 seconds. Behind them, the man stood there blinking, disoriented. Something felt wrong, really wrong, and it was happening fast. He walked directly to an airport security guard and told them that two women had just rubbed something on his face, that he didn't feel well. Security escorted him to the airport medical clinic. His condition dropped sharply. They called an ambulance. He never made it to the hospital. Kim Jong-nam, the eldest son of North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il and the half-brother of the current dictator Kim Jong-un, was pronounced dead less than 2 hours later. To understand why a world leader's brother was being assassinated in a Malaysian airport, you have to go back. Kim Jong-nam grew up as the crown prince of the most isolated, most controlled nation on the planet. His father, Kim Jong-il, ran North Korea with an iron grip, a regime built on fear, propaganda, and total loyalty to the ruling family. And Jong-nam, as the eldest son, was always expected to eventually step into that role, but Jong-nam was different. People who encountered him described him as unusually curious, more open-minded than you'd expect from someone raised inside that system. He'd traveled internationally, he'd seen the outside world, and somewhere along the way, he'd started questioning whether the North Korean model was really the right path. That didn't go over well with his father. Then came the incident that truly ended his shot at power. In 2001, Jong-nam was caught at Tokyo's Narita airport traveling on a fake Dominican Republic passport with his young son in tow. His destination? Tokyo Disneyland. Now, to most of us that sounds almost funny, but to Kim Jong-il it was a catastrophic embarrassment. Disneyland, the ultimate symbol of American capitalism. The kind of place that represents everything North Korea tells its citizens to despise. The heir apparent was caught sneaking his kid into a theme park and the whole world found out. Jong-nam was effectively exiled from the line of succession after that. When Kim Jong-il died in 2011, it was the younger half-brother, Kim Jong-un, who took power, and Kim Jong-un hated Jong-nam because Jong-nam was a threat not militarily, but symbolically. He existed. He was vocal. He'd publicly criticized the North Korean regime and had given interviews suggesting the country needed reform. To Kim Jong-un, that was intolerable. Intelligence agencies believe Jong-un had been trying to have his half-brother killed for years. He just hadn't found the right method, until he did. This is the part where I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now. Just say VX so I know you're still with me. And real quick, where are you watching from? What time is it there? I genuinely love seeing where this community comes from. Okay, back to it. Here's the part of this story that should make your skin crawl. VX, formerly known as methylphosphanodiol, but let's just call it what it is, one of the most lethal substances ever synthesized by human beings. VX is a nerve agent. It's odorless, it's colorless, it absorbs through the skin almost instantly, and it doesn't take much. A single drop smaller than a raindrop on exposed skin is enough to kill an adult human being. It works by attacking the nervous system, essentially causing the body to lose the ability to control itself. Muscles seize. The body can't breathe. Has been banned internationally as a weapon of mass destruction under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and Kim Jong-un's regime put it on two women's hands without telling them. Here's the truly diabolical part of the method. VX in its pure form is actually dangerous to handle. So North Korean operatives split the compound. They put chemical A on Siti's hands. They put chemical B on Doan's hands, separately, completely harmless. Neither woman was in any danger while they were being prepped. But the moment both compounds made contact with Jong-nam's face, within seconds of each other, they combined, and that combination created VX. The producers had engineered a human delivery system. Two unwitting women, one binary chemical weapon, and the moment the deed was done, every single North Korean operative in that airport walked out the doors and disappeared. Siti went home. She washed up, relaxed, and didn't think much more about it. Just another prank day. She'd done it before. She'd do it again. The money was good. Doan went home too. Neither woman knew that a man had died. Neither had any idea that an international investigation was already beginning, one that would eventually link both of them directly to the killing. About 24 hours later, Malaysian police came for Siti. And here's the detail that tells you everything about her state of mind in that moment. Mr. Chang when the officers showed up at her door, there were cameras Siti laughed. She went along with it, smiling, thought it was maybe even playing it up a little. Because why would she think otherwise? She'd Spent the past month being told that random, unexpected things happening to you in public was just the job. The moment it stopped being funny was the moment. They sat her down and showed her footage from the airport. The moment it became terrifying was the moment they said the words murder charge. In Malaysia, a murder conviction under the law carries one mandatory sentence, death by hanging. Siti was 25 years old. I want to hear from you right now. Honestly, do you think Siti knew what she was doing? Drop your answer in the comments. This is one of those cases where the jury of public opinion is genuinely divided. And while you're down there, if this story has your jaw on the floor right now, make sure you've subscribed. We put out cases like this every week. What followed was one of the most geopolitically complicated criminal trials in modern Southeast Asian history. Siti and Doan were formally charged with murder. Under Malaysian law, that charge, if it stuck, meant death. No exceptions, no discretion, just a mandatory sentence carried out by the state. Their trial began roughly 8 months after the assassination. And from the start, it was a legal and diplomatic circus unlike almost anything the region had seen. On one side, the Malaysian prosecution, determined to hold someone accountable for a killing that happened on their soil, in their airport, in front of their security cameras. On another side, the Indonesian government, furious that their citizen, a young woman with no criminal record, no political affiliations, no knowledge of North Korean intelligence operations, was facing execution for something she didn't understand. She was doing, on yet another side, Vietnam, fighting for Doan in the same way. And then there was North Korea. North Korea predictably said absolutely nothing useful. They denied any involvement. They sent officials to the trial who seemed more interested in monitoring the proceedings than cooperating with them. The regime maintained that Kim Jong-un's death had nothing to do with them, and that any suggestion otherwise was a political attack. Meanwhile, the actual operatives, Mr. Chang and every other handler involved in setting up the assassination, were long gone. North Korean intelligence had them out of Malaysia within hours. Of the killing, Korean nationals were identified as suspects. None of them were ever prosecuted. Most were believed to have returned to North Korea, where no extradition treaty exists. That left Siti and Doan. The trial dragged on for 2 years. 2 years of testimony, evidence, international maneuvering, and 2 young women sitting in a Malaysian detention facility while governments negotiated over their lives. Then, in 2019, the charges against Siti were suddenly dropped. Just like that, the Indonesian government had been quietly working diplomatic channels for months, and whatever they offered or threatened worked. Siti walked out of that courtroom a free woman. She flew home to Indonesia, reunited with her family, and tried to begin the process of rebuilding a life that had been detonated by someone else's conspiracy. Doan's path was harder. The Vietnamese government's negotiations were slower, the legal process more drawn out. She eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, causing injury, and was sentenced to time served. She was released in 2019 as well, nearly 3 years after that day in the airport. The people who actually planned and carried out the assassination of Kim Jong-un still free. Let that sit with you for a second. A nuclear-armed government identified a target, recruited 2 civilian women from neighboring countries without their knowledge or consent, rehearsed them for weeks, handed them components of a banned weapon of mass destruction disguised as a prank prop, and then evaporated, leaving those 2 women to face murder charges and the death penalty. And it almost worked. Not just the assassination. That part did work. But the cover, the deniability, the narrative that these were just 2 random women who did something terrible. For a long time, that was the story. Siti and Doan were not assassins. They were props. They were the delivery mechanism in someone else's geopolitical murder plot, chosen precisely because they were ordinary. Because nobody would suspect them, because they had no idea what they were carrying, because their confusion would read as innocence or guilt, depending on who was telling the story. This case forces a question that doesn't have a comfortable answer. In a world where authoritarian regimes can weaponize ordinary people without their knowledge, what does accountability even look like? Kim Jong-un spent his adult life caught between the world he was born into and the world he wished North Korea could become. He wasn't a saint. He wasn't a hero, but he was a man who wanted to take his son to Disneyland, who paid for that moment for the rest of his life, and who ultimately became the target of the very regime his own blood created. Siti went home to Indonesia. Doan went home to Vietnam. Kim Jong-un is still in power, and Mr. Chang is still out there, somewhere. If this case hit different for you, and I think it did, drop a comment and tell me what part of this story shocked you the most. Was it the VX? The Disneyland arrest? The fact that Siti was literally laughing when they came to arrest her? Let me know. Subscribe if you're new. I mean it, cases like this are what we do here every single week. And I'll see you in the next one.